I remember when I read this part of Boku no Hero Academia in the manga for the first time. And I remember how much joy it brought me and excitement. And I also remember saying, I cannot wait for this to get animated. It's before Boku no Hero Academia really had an anime, and I was like, this is going to be very popular when it finally has an anime series. When it comes out and all that, it's going to be insane. It's going to be fun. Everybody's going to be jumping for joy and just freaking out when they see, you know, some of this stuff animated. And after all of this time, after waiting over a year plus to finally see this animated, I finally get that. And I have pure joy right now. I have pure 100% joy after watching this episode. Hands down, probably the best episode of the series. Not just Season 2, but Season 1 as well. Just hands down one of the best episodes. And it couldn't have been better said by the mangaka himself, Horikoshi. FYI, if you did not hear, earlier, this week or last week, basically, Horikoshi did a quick little, message with the offer comments in, the Weekly Shonen Jump, saying he already saw the episode and he was really excited and happy how his manga is being handled and it's being animated. I mean, he went as far as to say, it's crazy good. Now, normally when it comes from an offer and all that, when they say something like this, usually they're saying that because either A, they need to, or it's just their series. So, obviously, that's why they're saying it's going to be amazing. However, Horikoshi, I could see the passion he put into this series, and I think he can see how much passion he put in, but also how the animator, Studio Bones, is taking it one step further just to make his work even better. I mean, it's just such a brilliant episode, and the way they did the fight overall, the animation was just absolutely stunning, and I feel like that's probably why Horikoshi was just so, just amazed by the way this episode was done, because it wasn't just they were taking his content and animating it and making it just, have life, but they also added so much more to it that just made it way beyond what the manga could give us. And I feel like that's what Horikoshi was trying to say when he mentioned that in his offer comments last week, saying it was a crazy episode and he's happy that the series is getting animated. And I definitely stand with Horikoshi when it comes to that opinion. A great episode. So, one of the big things about this episode that many need to realize is the point of it. And many might not have necessarily have gotten the point from this episode, so I kind of want to clarify. Many, after watching this episode, might think that the episode was about Todoroki versus Izuku, which in a lot of cases, yes, that is true. However, that wasn't the main point, or what Izuku was trying to do in this episode. Let me explain. Izuku, as you could see, clearly was getting overpowered in this match. If Todoroki would have used his fire side right at the start, Izuku wouldn't have stood a chance. He would have gotten obliterated right at the start. And because of that, that just shows the power gap between Izuku and Todoroki, and just in terms of their abilities alone. That's not even talking about how they can think things through and they use their mind. Even though everything was stacked up against Izuku, Izuku necessarily wasn't trying to completely win until Todoroki finally used his fire side. Now, hear me out. Many might not understand what I'm getting at, so let me explain. We see Izuku, for a majority of the episode, he stands firm and just stands up to Todoroki, trying to make this man use his fire side. That's what he wants Todoroki to do. He pushes this man and pushes this man and pushes this man even further before he can use his fire side. And throughout the fight, you can look at Izuku like, this man is very reckless. This man, obviously, he thinks everything's going to be okay. Recovery Girl's going to come in, she's going to heal him, and everything's going to be fine. And so he's being reckless. But that wasn't the case. He did have the resolve, but it wasn't the case that he felt like everything was going to be fine after the match. What happened there was Izuku doing what he does best, and what heroes do best. Intervene and get into people's business. For instance, he wasn't being a student at that moment. He wasn't being someone that was trying to become number one in that match or win this tournament. That wasn't the case. What Izuku was trying to do was to save Todoroki. It's even stated point blank that that's what he was trying to do. All Might comes to the conclusion, wait, are you trying to save him? And that is what Izuku was doing. He didn't really necessarily care about winning in that moment. He wanted Todoroki to accept his true self, his other side, and also realize he is not Endeavor. He is not his father. He wanted Todoroki to face this. And so, the main point here of this fight wasn't Izuku trying to win. It was him saving this poor boy that had a very hard life. And so, like we know from Izuku, he goes and takes it upon himself to save others. And that is exactly what he was doing. He was not being someone trying to win against Todoroki. He was just trying to make him open his eyes and realize what was wrong, which led to a lot of character development for Todoroki in this episode. That was the main point of the episode, or at the very least what Izuku was trying to do. Now let's talk about this real quick, of how Izuku just threw himself under the bus just to help out Todoroki. That was a big crucial part of this episode, and to be honest with you, I don't remember that exact same scene. It felt like there was something different about the way that was presented in this episode when everybody was talking about how reckless Izuku was. Many were just pointing out like, holy crap, you know, he's hurting his body a lot. He must have a lot of resolve to be able to work through this pain. He must be going through a lot of adrenaline, like an adrenaline rush right now, but still it's ridiculous for him to be pushing himself that far. And this is just showing, and the main point of that was to showcase how far Izuku would go to save someone, how he is willing to allow his body to get hurt just to be a hero. And that's what that point was trying to emphasize of what Izuku was doing for Todoroki, how he is willing to go to such lengths just to save someone. Regardless of his well-being, he will do something like that for others. So that was the main point of that part of the episode. So we need to all remember that, because that's just a crucial part about Izuku's character and him becoming a hero in this story. So with all that out of the way and the meaning and all of that, let's talk about the fight. Animation-wise, definitely the best I've seen yet, or at the very least the best I've seen since All Might at the end of Season 1. The animation was just beautiful. And one of the best parts about the episode's animation, my personal favorite part, was when Izuku, he was frozen and all that, and he was just sitting there, and you have the camera literally rotate around Izuku as he's spinning around, trying to keep Todoroki in his sight. That was one of the best moments in terms of animation, just the way he went that far. You just see how he was keeping so focused on Todoroki's movements, he didn't want to make any error when he was following him, what he was doing, what he was going to attack with next, from what side. The way these certain little details throughout the fight were done, especially with the way the animation showcased it, made for a very phenomenal episode. And, I mean, there was some other great moments as well, as like just the air pressure that Izuku was doing when he just flicked his finger and all that, and you just saw the entire stadium just, like, get brushed back. They're like, holy crap, like, that's insane pressure. Or you seeing the clashes of the ice and, you know, just Izuku's strength, you know, one for all. It's just awesome the way this was animated. And then when Izuku was just breaking a finger one after another, you just see him snapping his fingers, and eventually it got so bad that because he was trying to save Todoroki, that he started using his already broken fingers. That just showed the resolve and how impressive Izuku was, but also how he needs to learn to control his abilities even more, because that's not something that is good. You should not go into every single fight breaking your bones just to be a hero. That's not a good thing to do, because eventually there's going to have to be some form of wall to stop that, because if you continue to do that, that's probably going to be very bad for you. So it shows one thing, some flaws to Izuku's character, but it also shows how far he will go to win a fight, or do what he sets out to do. So one big thing about the breaking of the fingers and stuff, and was a key moment that really stood out to me, and I think it's going to stand out to everyone while watching this episode, was when Izuku, his fingers were so broken that he had to flick his finger with his mouth. Like, he just put his finger in his mouth and flicked his finger. That, oh my god, just imagine how painful it must be for you to go that far, to flick your finger with your mouth with that much force. Oh, that has to hurt. Like, that is going, oh. Yeah, that's not something that's probably going to feel too good once the match is done, for him to go that far. Now, one of the big things that's going to shock everyone about this episode is the fact that Izuku lost. Many that watch this series, or watch shonen anime, or read shonen manga, they always expect the main character to win. That's the big thing. That's what everybody assumes. When you reading a manga that's shonen, or you're watching an anime that's shonen, and you have this battle tournament arc and stuff, everybody expects the main character to win. Everybody expects him to automatically win and just be on top. But that isn't the case with Boku no Hero Academia, which is why this series stands out amongst the rest, but also why so many manga readers were praising this series before it ever got an anime, was because of how Horikoshi handles his series, how he doesn't try to fall into the standard shonen tropes that you see constantly in other manga. He likes to take it down a different path. He sometimes brushes with the tropes, but over time you just see where he completely negates that and goes his own direction, and that is stuff I really respect from a writer, and that is what you clearly see in this episode, how Izuku lost. But once again, I want to reinforce the fact of what the main point of the episode was. It wasn't Izuku winning. It was just to make Todoroki see the truth. So in a way, you could say Izuku did necessarily win in this episode. Maybe not what we all expected him to win, but he still won in a way because he made Todoroki see what was wrong with him and how he needs to change himself and better himself as a person and a hero. So speaking of heroes and people and all of that, let's talk about Endeavor for a second. We all knew that Endeavor was a piece of shit. I mean, we already saw what, Todoroki said about his father. We found out about what his mother did to him. We kind of already know these details. However, we actually got to see it happen in this episode. This just concretes the fact of how much of a piece of shit Endeavor is and what he did to his son and his wife, or what you could assume is a person he just married just to get her quirk ability to give to Todoroki. So Endeavor, we can all say right now, in terms of what we've seen thus far in this series, he is probably the lowest of low, the scummiest of the scummiest pieces of shit that we have seen thus far in Boku no Hero Academia. To do that to your wife, to do that to your son, to punch your own son at a young age, and make him vomit just shows how awful of a parent he is. And then making your wife hate you so much she hurts your own son just shows how despicable he is. He was such a bad person that he made Todoroki's mother so paranoid, so disgusted with Endeavor, that she burnt her own son. She burnt her own son with boiling water. And here is the way you can look at this, okay? Many might be quick to say, what the fuck is wrong with the mother for doing that to her own son? And like I said, I don't necessarily agree with the methods. Like, that's messed up for a mother to do to her son. But we gotta look at it from this point of view, okay? Just take a moment and think about it outside of that perspective, of the mother just putting boiling water on her son's face. Endeavor went out with Todoroki's mom and married her just to have Todoroki to surpass All Might. For instance, he was living through Todoroki's life. He was accomplishing what he wanted, his desires, through Todoroki. So Todoroki wasn't necessarily his own person in Endeavor's eyes. It was just like Todoroki was Endeavor and just gonna fulfill his wishes and goals. That was the whole point of what Endeavor wanted and how he viewed Todoroki in general. And his wife, or the person that had Todoroki, was more of a tool than anything else. And that's just how he felt about the entire situation. And if you are the mother to Todoroki and the wife to Endeavor, you know, if you had to deal with years of stuff like this, seeing your son basically tortured, and then you as well just mistreated by, your husband, obviously you're just going to get very disgusted. And after many, many, many years, these emotions will build up. And you can clearly see that Todoroki's mother was trying to hold back these emotions. She was trying to keep everything back and not do anything that was absolutely awful to Todoroki. She didn't want to necessarily take it out on him. But over time, these feelings, they built to a boiling point, literally, and she couldn't contain it any longer, which she struck out at Todoroki. And you can see that Todoroki doesn't hate his mother. He doesn't blame his mother. You can clearly see the way he carries himself. In fact, he blames his father for that act in general because of what he has done. And I just feel very sorry for Todoroki, and it was such a very mature way to dive into his backstory and just show why he acted like he did. It makes so much more sense now, but that was the exact same reason why Izuku needed to save him in the first place, because if he didn't, Todoroki never would have been able to move past his past, and he would have been stuck in this cycle of hating his father, not using his quirk ability, and then eventually, if he did become a hero, which he probably would have because of how impressive he was, he would probably die or get really hurt because he wasn't using his other side. So that's what Izuku was trying to do. He was trying to allow this man to realize the error of his ways and to accept his past, but also move forward. So a very, very glorious episode of Boku no Hero Academia. Like I said, best episode to date. Loved it. Cannot wait to see more. And just tell me your honest thoughts in the comments below. I love you all so much. Please be safe. Chibi out.